I want you to think back to a simpler time, the early years of your hobby in gaming. We all have that one game that changed how we play and what we like. A game that started an obsession or a passion. We begin to collect and want to learn more, everything we can about this series that we just discovered. Some even begin to craft idols from the game's world with their own hands. Anything to expand and extend that experience. Final Fantasy VII is a game that needs no introduction. And yet, here I am. This is the game that started my RPG obsession, and this is my story.
Hey, what's up, comrades? This is Nomad here from Nomad's Repairs and Gaming, and I'd like to welcome you back to the channel to help me initiate my first formal episode of showing you guys what this channel is about and the kind of content I'll have going forward. This is a game, you can clearly see, that doesn't really need any introduction. Needless to say, I went all out in trying to give it a good introduction. This game meant a lot to me, as I'm sure has meant a lot to many people. It was the first game of the series to break into the world of 3D. It was the first game of the series to finally leave a Nintendo platform. This opened up the gates for many new players to find and discover this series and this genre. Like, the JRPG was essentially locked in to the Super Nintendo. There was a few here and there on the Sega Genesis, but for the most part, the Super Nintendo and Nintendo was home of the JRPG. And most likely for reasons given to age, I'm going to be outing myself here on this, that genre eluded me for a good while. Final Fantasy VII finally reached statesides over into America on September 7th of 1997, making me only 10 years old when this game released. Was I too young to be playing it? Probably, but let's be honest, if you were in the same boat as me, your parents were probably just happy that you were reading. My mom actually never understood my obsession with these games. I would never read a book when she told me to, but I would sit there and play hundreds of hours in an RPG that's predominantly just reading. It just worked. Whatever, I got a little education out of it. Awesome. I could speak ad nauseum to the greatness of this game, the achievements of this game, its sales, its numbers, all of its spin-offs, everything is represented and moved on over the years. But that's been done a million times through. And I'm sure the approach I'm going with isn't going to be too much different than an approach many other people have made, but the best part about personal stories and what things mean to people is that they're always going to be different. No one else is going to have the same experiences. So I just wanted to say that Final Fantasy VII was introduced to me when I was 10 years old. I was playing Magic the Gathering, the card game, at a comic book shop. Showcase Comics used to be a neighborhood comic book shop. And we had Magic the Gathering groups together on Sundays, and a couple of the guys there were all talking about this new game, this new phenomenal game, the greatest graphics they've ever seen, the best story they've ever seen, amazing music. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this? What is this? Come on, guys. Like, what is this? And they're like, what, you don't know Final Fantasy? And I'm like, Final what? Why is there more than one of them? I didn't actually say that, but everybody says that. If it's the final one, whatever. So I talked to them, listened to them. Everybody was always so excited, talking about the Scorpion fight and the ins and outs of it. Like, it just seemed like the most mind-blowing game to me, just hearing it being described. I'm like, how is this possible that a game can portray all of this? So I went to my local game gallery, which was an old game store in my neighborhood, traded in a whole bunch of stuff I had, all platformers, side-scrollers, shooters, the basic general stuff you play as a kid, or just as a gamer, and I still play all that stuff. And I picked up, not this copy, but a copy of Final Fantasy VII from the shelf, brand new. And odd fact, some of the first release is actually misprinted on the back of a typographical error. There's a part somewhere in this text here that talks about the game being a masterpiece. Those letters are all jumbled up and mixed up and out of line. I really doubt that that's worth any money, but if you can find it, just know that was probably part of the first release run in America, and it'd be kind of cool to own. I kind of wish I still had that copy. There's a lot of things in this game that bring back a lot of memories and that help change how I think of gaming. I used to be like almost a speed runner, like to my friends. My friends always considered me to be the person like, oh, if a new game comes out, he's going to beat it the first day. You know, he's just going to run right through it and destroy it. This game stumped me. This game stumped me beyond belief. There is literally a segment when you're inside the Shinra Tower, right after you fight with Hojo, and I got stuck. Not because the fight was too hard, not because the game was too hard. That's the story that comes after this. But the map was a little hard to read, and I was literally lost in the Shinra building for weeks, and I just gave up playing, and I didn't come back to it for months. When I came back to it, I actually think it was in '98. It was such a gap, but it was the new school year, and I ended up meeting up with a new friend that I've been in contact with since. He's one of my best friends, and my other two best friends were in my class as well. So we're all talking about the game, and my new friend was talking to me about materia setups and how to better power up your characters. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back, I'm going to play this. I got to give this another chance. I didn't tell him that I got lost in the map. It was just embarrassing. Like, yeah, I'm young, but I got lost in a building, right? Come on. It's a shame. So I got home, and I realized if you hit the select button, it puts little markers and cursors on the maps for all the entryways and exits, and even a little cursor or finger over your character, so you can see where things are and where you're going. It was just a doorway under a bridge. There was a doorway under a bridge I couldn't find. After that, it was smooth sailing. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe myself that stumped me. But I mean, already it had me hooked as a game. Like, I've never played a game that gave me these kinds of difficulties, even if it's something that's almost like a mechanical flaw. Like, they clearly put that option in there because they knew the maps could be a little hard to read, but I mean, it felt good to be stumped. Games had not stumped me for a majority of my life. Like I said, I run through them very quickly. Then came Materia Keeper. Materia Keeper wrecked me, obliterated me, destroyed me. It's probably the closest I came to throwing a controller outside of a Soulsborne game. Definitely at the time, it was infuriating to me. So I went back to school after the weekend, and I'm talking to my friend, and he's like, oh, Materia Keeper, no problem. He's a little bit hard, he hits heavy, but if your materia's set up right, he's a breeze. I bring him my memory card the next day, so I'm like, there's no way, I can't figure this out. He goes home with my memory card, loads up my save, does what he needs to do, doesn't even beat the boss for me. He just brings me back my memory card, and he was like, did you not understand what the all materia was? And I'm like, clearly not. What are you talking about? And he explained to me in better detail how the junctioning and combining of materia works and the effects it has and how it can be used to select all members or all opponents. I steamrolled through that boss, no problem. First time I booted it up with the new materia equipment he set me up with. And then I went all in with the materia. I went back and I started looking at every single one I collected, every single one I neglected, leveling them up, powering them up, trying out all these new combos. The game changed how I looked at gaming. It changed, it wasn't so much just learning about button presses as much as it was about learning the inner workings and the systems and tools that these games give you in manipulating them to get an edge. That's so much deeper than anything I had from a platformer or side scroller. Like, I was hooked. By the time I finally wrapped up Final Fantasy VII, did all of its content, Final Fantasy VIII was just about to come out. Jumped right on that when it hit shelves. Won't lie, liked 8, like it more now than I did at the time. But in all honesty, Legend of Dragoon was the way better release that year. Just saying. And on the topics of things being better, Final Fantasy VI, hear me out. Love it. Phenomenal. Great game. I played 7 first, so that's where my heart goes. That's what had the impact. That was my first RPG. If I had the chances to play 6 first, I would probably put 6 above 7. Almost undoubtedly, especially like if I was the same age or whatever. If every single interval, every single thing in it was different for me to make that happen, it would have been my favorite. So I'm not here to try and argue what's the best Final Fantasy. We all have our opinions, and honestly, this wins out because of its impact on me and being the first JRPG I ever tackled. So that about wraps me up for Final Fantasy VII. There's so many things I could talk about, like using to name all my characters after my friends. It was just a new experience for me. It really opened up a whole new world, and I went down this rabbit hole, and I've been playing JRPGs ever since. They make up the bulk of my game collection. Western RPGs too. I love them. I absolutely love the style of game, the style of storytelling is phenomenal. It's something everybody should look into. I definitely come to me in the comments. Go down below. Let me know what games had a similar story for you. Was Final Fantasy that game for you? Was any of them? Was there? I don't even care if it's not a JRPG. If you Doom 1 played it for the very first time, like the Sega 32X or something, and that somehow completely changed your view of the potential of first-person shooters. Tell me about it. Let's converse. Let's become a community. Relax, hang out, and enjoy. Thank you all for joining me today. This is Nomad. I love you all. Have a good night. Until next time.